how unhappy he is, and teams now making calls. Teams smelling blood in the water, saying, hey, if Russ is unhappy, let's call Seattle. See if they'll trade away their franchise quarterback. So that's kind of where it stands right now. The team hasn't really hung up the phone, but by the same token, there's no indication, according to me and our friend Tom Pelissero, that they're looking to trade him. But it is a situation that we certainly are watching here as we dig into the offseason.
Wow. And, yesterday I was thinking, just address it immediately, Nate. Like, if you're the Seahawks, whether it was there's anything to it or he was just saying it to Dan Patrick, to the press, whatever, just, like, address it. Make sure he's okay. Ask him how he's doing. So what do you think the Seahawks should do if they want to avoid a breakup with Russell Wilson?
Ask him how he's doing. Just say, hey, Russ, you doing all right?
Just make,
Everything good?
Don't, you know what we see in the NFL sometimes, Nate? We see it linger. We see the front office, the coaches, they won't check in. It's off season, like he said it. Let's not sit him down or call him at least and say, like, what's up? Is there something to this?
Yeah, we love it when it lingers because for us on TV, it gives us an off season of stuff to talk about. Exactly. We want it to bubble, as we like to say. You know, for CBS during the Super Bowl, we had what some would say the longest pregame in history. It was a strong 4-hour show. And on that 4-hour show, we had Russell Wilson come on. So Russell Wilson came on and he was talking about the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. But before we actually got on set, you know, just bros talking. What's up, Russ? How you doing? How's the fam? Everything good? Love what you're doing in Seattle. Love what you're doing on the field, off the field. And then we got to talking about some real football. I said, so what's really going on? And he said to me, I've been hearing the whispers. I've been hearing that people have been calling. I've been hearing the trade rumors. I said, well, how you feel about that? Like, what's going on with the Seahawks? He said, I'm excited about the season. I got everything I need when it comes to being able to make it to the playoffs. But I feel like he wanted to keep talking and say, but we just need a little bit more. And so with all that, what I took away from that conversation, Russell didn't say, I need this. But as a football player, I could read in between the lines saying, maybe Russell wants to be included in some of the decision-making when it comes to these roster moves. And I feel like that's okay. I know there's this narrative going around that players should just play. I don't care how much you get paid. I don't care if you're the franchise face. You don't deal with what's going on in the front office or when it comes to roster moves. But if you have a franchise guy like Russell Wilson and you trust him, why wouldn't you go to him and say, what do you need to be successful? Is it an offensive line? Is it another wide receiver? Do you need a dominant tight end? What do you want? Do you want a host of running backs? Do you want one dominant one? What do you need Russell Wilson? Now, I feel like if they do that, then yeah, Russell Wilson would be perfectly fine and happy. And I'll tell you this, Russell Wilson isn't a guy that's going to get sensitive off of the trade rumors. What he's going to do is show up and outwork the whispers. So that way you can quiet that and get back to that Russell Wilson MVP talk like we were at the beginning of the season.
Depends on the specifics. The player involvement in the personnel decisions. If they want a lineman or they want a running back, sure. But then you get into the nitty-gritty of it. It's like, is Russell Wilson watching tape on college prospects? Is he on the phone with guys like Daniel Jeremiah? Is he talking to... Of course not. John Schneider is a veteran, really accomplished GM who does that 24/7. I think there's a media minutes. Russell Wilson's message was not subtle. He started getting hit. And maybe part of that is his fault, but the fact is that the Seahawks have spent a first or second round pick on a lineman 0 times in the last 3 years, 1 first round pick at lineman in Russell Wilson's entire career. There's also something going on here as more of a backdrop, and the Seattle Times wrote an incredible piece on it. Seattle loses everybody, and I mean that as a city. They lose A-Rod, Griffey, Randy Johnson, Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Sean Alexander. They all leave.
The entire Sonics.
Everybody, the whole team left. And there's a sense of like, this is the greatest we've ever had. It's the most important Seattle athlete in history. And when you start saying I'm sick of getting hit, everybody panics. I think it's very simple. There's 5 people on the planet who can do what Russell Wilson can do. He's one of the special ones. You have to make him happy. You cannot say, Russ, stay in the corner, we're going to handle this. Get a lineman. If he wants a lineman, you don't have a first-round pick, draft one in the second, or move up as Schneider often does. But the idea of it's a sweet spot between, Russ, you cannot sit here and say every single thing and every piece of personnel minutia, and Russ, we got this. You have to find that middle ground, and if he says I'm tired of getting hit, just get a bleeping lineman and see if he's happy.
Which they did. I mean, they traded for a franchise left tackle, and they extended. I get that. I do. And they've taken his feedback before, and he's been involved in situations before. Now, he wanted Antonio Brown, and he didn't get Antonio Brown, and maybe seeing Antonio Brown in the Super Bowl maybe upset him a little bit, because they did speak with him on hours on end, but then in the end didn't pull the trigger and make the move. So I look at this situation. They've had 2 contract negotiations that have been ugly. And at the last point, right before the deal got done this last time, there was a moment where we thought it wasn't going to get done. So this is, there's bumps along the roads in this relationship. And I'm sitting there saying, well, he's got 3 years left on his deal. He wants to play way longer than that. I just envision a day sometime in the future, I don't know when, where Russell Wilson is not the quarterback of the Seahawks. He's the quarterback of somebody else.
Don't you think, is this like a Tom Brady effect thing a little bit that we're making it into? Like Deshaun Watson, of course, he's voiced that he wants to, you know, or we at least heard rumors. He hasn't voiced that at all. We haven't heard from him. He wants a part of this. But Tom Brady's an anomaly, right, Kyle? Like,
well.
And by the way, Tom Brady has not voiced that he wants personnel decision making. We don't really know truly how involved he is in anything that went down. Yes, he wanted, you know, they had to trade for Gronk. They had to add Antonio Brown, and that was not seen, you know, well, favorably by a lot of people. And he got what he wanted, but there is a difference between giving what he wants and, like, be involved. I'm with you on this.
Well, listen, Bruce Arians was on record as saying he didn't want Antonio Brown. Like, he's like, I'm out on that. I got a history with him. And then Tom Brady's like, no, we're getting him. And they did. So the fact that Tom Brady was on a boat yesterday in a new team and with a team that he basically put together in so many ways, I think there is a Brady effect. And I think there's about 5 guys, Russ being one of them, who are as powerful and as good who could do that. You bring up Antonio Brown, I think it's a coincidence that he's the guy he wanted and he didn't get him, and now Tom Brady's got another Super Bowl ring.
There's no question about that. And Brady, at the end in New England, wanted more playmakers around him. I think he had fewer or less help around him than Russ does in Seattle right now. And the other thing about Seattle is they like to spend money in different places too as well, on the defensive side of the ball. And they traded for Jamal Adams, and they would like to extend Jamal Adams. That's not going to help protect Russ. Is he going to be upset about that? That does make them a better team, though, to retain Jamal Adams, who was such a big part of their defense. So there's some input that he can have, but you're right. I mean, there's got to be a limit to how much your quarterback has say over what you do.
I'm sure Tom Brady's told the Patriots for 20 years what he would want, but he didn't get personnel decisions, and he was Tom Brady with 6 rings there, and then he went somewhere, used that maybe as a leverage, as a bargaining chip to say, I'll come to Tampa if these things happen. Do you think that all players, Tom Brady's not an anomaly, and all players should, quarterbacks rather, should have that sort of engagement and involvement on personnel decisions?
I think that that's a false narrative that Tom Brady has never had input on the roster.
Okay.
I feel like he's had over 20 years. I'm pretty sure there were some players that walked in there and Tom Brady said, yeah, I would love to have Randy Moss. I don't care what just happened the last couple of years of his career.
Yeah.
I can do something with Randy. But over the last year or so, we saw Tom Brady basically, without saying it out loud, I need some wide receivers. And then he left and found maybe the best group of wide receivers with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I feel like you have to earn that. This isn't something that you walk in as a rookie and get. I don't care if you get $100 million. I'm not sure if Derek Carr has this type of leverage, maybe even Matt Stafford now with the Rams. I'm not sure if Jimmy Garoppolo has this type of leverage. But if you earn it, if you're Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers even, those guys can walk in and say, listen, with what I've done, you have to listen to what I'm saying. And I know we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson a little bit later on in the show, and I'll touch on that from a front office perspective.
But Kyle and I can walk into our boss's office and say, I want you to hear me out. This is what's wrong. This is what I would like. We really, really like Matthew Hamilton. Please extend him.
Got to do it.
But you got to do it. It's how I feel. But ultimately, they're going to, we have to trust that they're going to make the best decision for the team of Good Morning Football. So don't you think, was Matthew Stafford in your years with him, was he ever asked, do you think, what do you think of Nate Burleson? You like Nate Burleson? I'm sure he was, like I'm sure that has
Matt
to
Stafford
happen.
was really young when I got there, so I'm pretty sure he wasn't involved in that decision.
At all.
No, probably not. But I also, like, there's a side of it we touched on earlier in the week. Don't you think there's a little part of it that's a little whiny from Russ? Russ makes $35 million a year. He has DK Metcalf. He has the left tackle that he wants.
Take a little less money.
Maybe take less money, or maybe take fewer sacks.
Is it whiny or is it honest? Because he's saying what we all saw.
Well, maybe it's hypocritical. Maybe we can't protect you because you make so much damn money, Russ. Maybe we can't do it. You make $35 million a year.
There's no question about that. He took them for every dollar that he can earn, which is his right, by the way.
Better run for your life, though, then, dude. Can't pay the big right tackle.
There you go. And you're not Tom Brady, and you're not even Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, I know we looked at the overall number for the contract. He took less money over. It's 12 years, Nate. You know that $45 million in 6 years is going to be underpaid for the best quarterback in the league?
You said Russ isn't Patrick Mahomes?
No, money-wise.
Oh, okay.
All right, back that up. Make sure we're crystal clear on that. I don't want that going.
By the way, I don't mind that.
That's an argument.
No, we'll do that next block. Okay. Money-wise.
No, I feel you. They stretched it out.
Yes.
Yeah.